Okay, fine. So in the previous class, we have started our discussion about seed certification, where I have talked about what is seed certification, what is the importance of seed certification, and we have talked about the world history of seed certification and what are the international organizations which are actually involved in certification process and how it actually started, right? And also I have talked about the Indian history on seed certification and different agencies that were involved and the present status of Indian seed certification, right? And then we have discussed about different classes of seeds in the throughout the generation system of multiplication, and I spoke about the breeder seed class, foundation seed, and certified seed, and also the tag size and the label. And we have also talked about the seed lot size, right? We have talked about seed lot size, where it has a three standard lot size. There are three standard lot size starting with 10,000 kg, 40,000 kg, and 20,000 kg. So 10,000 is for the crops where the size of the crop is less than rice, or the size of a seeds are less than the size of a rice. So those all comes under a seed lot size of 10,000 kg. And for more than the seeds which are in the size more than of rice seeds and rice, including rice, it is 20,000 kg. And there are around 6 crops which is for which the seed lot size is 40,000 kg, right? So this is very, very important. Just try to remember this. And also tag size and color. And I have clearly showed you the difference between tag and the label, right? So these are the few important things that we have discussed in the previous class. And today we will carry out this discussion and continue with other topics that are to be discussed. And where we'll start with the unit of certification. So what do you mean by unit of certification? The unit of certification is the entire area under seed production which is given by the individual or which is done by the individual. So that particular area, if it is by the individual, the whole area is called as one unit, provided there are certain conditions. So in order to be a seed field called to be as a single unit, there are certain criteria or certain conditions that it has to fulfill. So what are the different conditions to be called as a single unit? So first thing is it should be all under one variety and it should not exceed 10 hectares. If a certain field is more than 10 hectares which is belonging to the same individual, then it is divided into two units. It cannot be considered as a single unit even though it belongs to the same individual. It is considered as a two different units if the size of the plot exceeds 10 hectares. And also, if a single farmer has a seed plot where he has undertaken the seed production, if there is a gap between his seed, like his land, where he is just producing the seeds, if the gap between his plots is less than 50 meter, then only these two different plots will be considered as one unit. If in case the distance between the two plots is more than 50 meter, then it cannot be considered as one unit. It cannot be considered as one unit. So this is the third condition. And next, so it should be planted or is to be meant to be planted to produce the seed belonging to the same class, that is either foundation seed, breeder seed, foundation seeds, or certified seed, or and also the stage in the generation system. That means if it is foundation seed 1 in one plot, the other plot, if it is at this adjacent to the first plot or it is attached to the first plot, that plot should also be having foundation seed 1, or if it is foundation seed 2 in the first plot, and all other plots should be having same stage in the generation system, then only it can be considered as a single unit. And lastly, the crop over the entire area should be on a more or less on the same stage. It's not like if a single farmer has two different plots, or if he has 10 hectares of a land, if certain farmer is or certain seed producer is having 10 hectares of land, he cannot sow half of them in one period and other half of them in a later period, and he cannot call it as a one unit. It is not considered as one unit if it is not sown at the same duration or at the same time. That means growth stage should be more or less in the same stage, or the growth stage should be equal, more or less it should be equal, so that observations are representative of the entire crop. Only then they will be considered as a single unit. So there are again certain rules for certification. So if you remember anything about it, you can just type in the text box, chat box. If you know about any proper conditions or criteria for certifying seats in India, you can just give a note on that. What is the first and foremost criteria to be certified in India? Like for any crop or any variety, what is the basic criteria to be certified in India, or a basic condition that it should follow so that it one can apply for certification? What is it? Why you people don't remember this? I just talked about this already in the seed legislation class very clearly, where we have talked about different sections. Is it not notification? Yes. See, I already told you the difference between notification and registration. So these two are always confusing, but they belong to the different legislation. For example, notification comes under Seed Act 1966. Registration comes under PPV and FRA Act 2001. So under PPV FRA Act, only varieties those are registered, though they will be protected. So under Seed Act, only those variety will be certified which are notified. So this is a difference between notification and registration. So don't get confused with these two terms, where in the PPV FRA Act, compulsory registration is there in order to take the protection. But in Seed Act 1966, there is a voluntary notification, or the notification is not compulsory, not even the certification is compulsory. What is compulsory in Seed Act then? It's only the label. Labeling is compulsory in case of Seed Act 1966. So again, this labeling is limited to notified seeds. If certain variety is notified, then labeling is compulsory. So this flaws was taken care in case of seed control order, where all class of seeds or all categories of seeds should be labeled compulsory. So this is for Seed Act 1966 and Seed Control Order 1983. I hope like you got the difference between notification and registration. So this is the first criteria, where if you want to certify your seed, any variety, like that particular variety should be notified under Seed Act 1966. Only then you can certify your seed. So this is a first and foremost condition. So what about the area? If I am a farmer or I am a seed producer, is there any limit on the area that on which I will produce the seeds, or on which I will carry out this certified seed production? Is there any limit or not? And if there is any limit, what is the limit? So when we talk of the area, there is no as such limit for a seed producer to produce the certified seed. There is no minimum area and there is no maximum area that will be offered to a seed producer. Okay. So only thing is, no matter how much of area he is doing the production, he should comply with field and seed standards. He should maintain both seeds and both field standards and seed standards. Only then his variety will be certified, or his seeds will be certified. So next, it's about field inspection. So field inspection are generally carried out to check the irreversible damage. When the damage is reversible, that if it can be removed, in that case, field inspections are not that stringent and they won't reject your field. If it causes the irreversible damage to the genetic purity or seed health or any other seed quality attributes, then only your seed lot will be rejected for certification. So once the field inspection is done, the copy of the report should be handed to the seed producer. So whenever the field inspection is been carried out by seed certification officer, if once the report is submitted to the seed producer, if he is not happy with the field inspection, or if he feels that he can rectify the off types or rectify the mistakes, or he can uh, comply with the standards again by removing the off types or rogging the field thoroughly. If in case he can do that, he can again request the seed certification agency to do the re-inspection. So that means re-inspection is allowed where if the seed producer is willing to remove all the like off types that are present in the field, which are actually causing the damage to the seed quality attributes. If in case it can be removed, you can remove them, and I can again also request for reinspection. So this is what I have written it here. So just read this properly, because you might expect this type of question in the statement based questions. Okay. So next it is about bulking. So when we talk of bulking, what do you mean by bulking? Bulking is just mixing of seed lots. See, the mixing of seed lots, if I have two different seed lots with me, I can mix them. I can mix them and make a composite seed lot. Only when there are again certain conditions, I cannot simply mix them without knowing the conditions. There are certain conditions here where the bulking is allowed. So the bulking is allowed only when the two different seed lots belong to the same certified seed producer. That means both the seed lots should be belonging to me only, and this particular seed lot should be of same crop, same variety, same class, and same stage. Again, this again repeats and repeats. Okay, just remember it is same crop, variety, class, and stage. So everywhere this condition is applied. And also the seed produced should be in the same season and also under similar agroclimatical conditions. So these are the certain conditions for bulking. And along with these conditions, there are certain other conditions where if I want to mix the two different seed lots, they should be subjected to certification by a same certification agency. It should be registered. Okay, oh, this is the older one. Oh, sorry. So subjected to certification by same certifying agency. And talking about the physical appearance, both the seed lots should be more or less similar, and also the level of maturity should be similar. And when we just observe visually, they should be adequately homogeneous. Only in these conditions you can mix the seeds, so that you can just combine the two seed lots to make it bigger lot. And again, just I mentioned the seed lot here. This is very, very important. Just don't neglect these points. Just try to remember as it is. So I've just given the int how to remember them. If the seed size is less than rice, it is 10,000 kg. If it is more than rice or rice, it is 20,000 kg. And for 40,000 kg, it is maize, sweet potato, yam, taro, and chow chow. So these are the 6 crops which have the seed lot size of 40,000, and other have 20 and 10,000. So what do you mean by seed lot? Seed lot is just a physically identifiable quantity of a seed which is completely homogeneous. So this is what seed lot means. So whenever there is a seed lot, so whenever there is, once the harvesting is been done and the processing has been started or completed, so the seed lot will be given a lot number. Every seed lot that we are talking about, for example, the seed lot size we know that is specific to crop to crop. Either it may be 40,000, 10,000, or 20,000. So that complete lot will be given a name, or it will be given a number. So that particular seed lot number consists of 4 different parts. So one is month year code, production location code, processing plant code, and where it is produced, seed produce code. So these are the 4 different parts which are all numerical in nature. So this will give us a complete seed lot number. I hope this is clear. So there is again another concept called blending. So bulking and blending, don't confuse with each other. So the bulking is just mixing together the unprocessed seed. So blending is a completely different concept, where if, for example, I have 2 different lots. So lot number 1 and lot number 2. If in case lot number 1 has a germination percentage of 88 after seed testing has been done, so the second seed lot is showing 87% of germination. But for example, if this is a maize variety, is any variety of maize, the maize crop, so we know that the standard germination percentage for the maize is 90%. So none of these seed lots are within the standards, within the prescribed standards. It is 3% less, it is 2% less here. But these both lots belong to the same variety, again the same crop, same variety, same class of seed, and same stage, and they are registered by a single individual, and it is done by the single seed certifying agency. So all these conditions are meeting. So in this case, there is an option of blending these two different lots. So what happens once we blend these two different lots? Is there any rise in the germination percentage that we can see, or the germination percent remains same? What do you think? Just tell me yes or no. I don't want the answer, the actual answer, like what will be the new germination percentage, but tell me like whether the germination percentage increases or it remains the same or even it decreases. What can happen here? So this, how to solve it? It's a SRF question. Don't worry about it. But at least tell me like whether it will increase or whether it will rise or it will be constant. So there is a, in this particular case, the germination percentage will usually rise. Okay. So that is why blending is done. So since these two different lots are not with the standards or not with the prescribed standards, this can be mixed together so that it will reach a prescribed standard, so that the complete seed produce will not be going waste or it will be not rejected. So this is why the blending is done. So there are other certain conditions where if there is any seed treatment during seed certification, so the poison should be mentioned if the seeds are treated with mercurial or toxic substance are present. If any toxic substance or the mercurial chemicals are present in the seeds, or they are treated with these chemicals, the name called as poison should be mentioned in that particular seed lot bag. Okay. And also it should contain a statement called as do not use for food, feed or oil purpose. So this statement is mandatory if there is any seed treatment which is poisonous in nature. So nextly, it's sampling. So I told you like once after the harvest and processing, the sampling will be done by the seed certification officer, where he will send these samples to the seed testing lab, right? So once the sampling is done, this particular sampling is divided into three parts. So one is kept as the guard sample by seed certification agency. Second one is given to producer, and third one is sent to the seed testing lab. So generally within 30 days, the results of the report, like results of the samples, will be sent to the seed certifying agency. So after once the seed testing report is sent, if in case it is believed that recleaning and resampling or retesting is possible, doing all this procedure will again allow this certain class of seed or this particular lot to be certified, or it will comply with the standards. This is also allowed. It's not like everything is in only one time. Not all these procedures are one time. Even if it is believed that after recleaning or resampling there is a possibility of meeting the prescribed standards, there it is allowed under Seed Act. So in the first case, resampling and retesting is allowed if the germination is not below the standard by the 10%. If for example the 90% is the standard germination percentage in case of maize. If my seed lot is having 85%, which is not below the 10%, like the difference between 90 and 85 is only 5%. That is, it is above 10%. The difference between is not 10% or more. So in this case, resampling or retesting will be done. So there is again second case where again the cleaning is again repeated. Not only the resampling and retesting, along with resampling and retesting, before that recleaning is done if in case the difference is between 10 to 50%. If for any parameters the prescribed, if the difference is between the 10 to 15% of the prescribed standards, then recleaning is done. If the difference is more than 50%, you cannot do anything. The seed certifying agency will directly reject the seed lot. Okay, so there is one more concept called as downgrading. So I just told you about the downgrading in a single sentence in the previous class, but I will tell you like what is downgrading actually. So this is very similar to the blending, where if the seed field or a seed lot is not meeting the prescribed standards for class which is being produced. So I'll give you the example. So for example, I am undertaking the foundation seed. The stage of seed production is foundation seed. So the prescribed limits prescribed standards will be little higher than the certified seed. Might be 5% or 10% higher than the certified seed. For example, genetic purity is 99% here. In the certified seed, it is 95 for hybrids. So difference is 4%. So in case the genetic purity percentage for foundation seed, which I have been growing after harvest from the seed sampling or seed testing, I have come to know that it is not meeting this 99%, but it is about 98 or 97 or within 95%, not less than 95%. In that case, this particular class of seeds can be downgraded and certified as, or given the name as certified seed, or it is certified and sold in the market. Why? Because it is just downgrading the quality. So that means it is not attaining the standards of foundation seeds, but still it is attaining the standards of certified seed. Since the certified seed standard is 95% in case of hybrids for genetic purity, so if this is occurring, then there is an option of downgrading, where the immediate next class, it will be just depromoted to immediately next class, and it is sold in the market. So this is by the request of seed producer. Okay, and also under extreme cases, this is again under extreme cases, natural calamities or any emergency conditions. This is mentioned in the seed act, where even under these certain conditions, even though if the foundation seed or certified seed doesn't meet any of the prescribed standards, still they can be certified. So if whenever there is a scarcity of the food, if there is a mass scarcity of the food in the country, then at the time, or in the case of natural calamities or any other emergency conditions, this is allowed, where substandard seeds can be certified. So the term is substandard seeds. So I hope like you will be able to answer if anyone asks you like what are substandard seeds. So these are the seeds which are not meeting the prescribed standards, which are certified by Central Seed Certification Board. So this is a matter of Central Seed Certification Board. So this is the authority to, or the power to certify those seeds will be for given to the Central Seed Certification Board. After the collective decision, they will come to a conclusion. So this is not frequently occurring. This is in the very rare case, but this particular condition is also there in the Seed Act 1966. So what about the validity of the certificate? I had already told you. Can you just, if you just remember, just can you answer me? So what is the validity of the certificate that is provided to the seed producer? So you should always answer it as 9 plus 6. 9 months of validity for initial certification. After, for every renewal, it is of 6 months. So whenever there is a renewal, they will check for physical purity, germination, and insect damage. So these are the parameters they will look for, and they will again renew the certification, like validity of the certificate. Again, even after, it's not like once the seed certification agency has given the certificate, it's not like it cannot take back the certificate. So there are also provisions where, if in case it has been observed that the seed producer has misrepresented the standards, or he has contravened in the seed act, like contravened in the seed act 1966, in that case the certificate that is provided can be revoked back. So this particular provision is also available in the seed act 1966. So retention, like what about the seed certification records, the field inspection report, and also the processing report and harvesting report? Every kind of records under seed certification program will be retained for 2 years from the grant of certificate or extension of certificate, and for 4 years for those lots which are rejected. So once the seed lots are rejected for seed certificate, those kind of records will be kept for 4 years. So just remember this 2 and 4. I was talking about the standards. So there are two different standards: field standards and seed standards, which are observed during field inspection. So can you just name some of the field and seed standards if you remember? Okay. So the field standards are nothing but preceding crop, which is a preceding crop before taking the sowing, taking up the sowing, it will be checked, and also the selection of seed. This is also a kind of standard that should be maintained. And next is isolation distance, the spacing, planting ratio. So this planting ratio is crucial for hybrid seed production. And next, it is number of field inspection that are to be undertaken. So the objectionable weeds that are present in the field, and inseparable other crop plants, and the number of border rows. So all these comes under the field standards. So then what about the seed standards? Seed standards includes number of pure seeds, other crop seeds, inert matter, weed seed, which are all the component of physical purity. Then the objectionable weed seeds. So first one is weeds here, the weed plants here. Now it is weed seeds, and the seed borne diseases, and which is under the parameter of seed health. And next it is maximum number of, like, maximum percentage of seeds of other distinguishable varieties, that is ODV. Okay, so this is under the parameter of genetic purity. But in India, this has been a very confusing concept, where we have ODV test, that is called as other distinguishable variety test, and also genetic purity test. So the purpose of both the test is very similar, they are overlapping. So we are just doing it to see that whether the complete lot belongs to the same variety or not. But the standards and the procedure that is followed is completely different, where in the genetic purity test we use GOT. So where from starting from sowing until harvest, we check for all the growth stages and diagnostic characters here. So this is done in GOT, and it is compared with the authentic sample. But in case of ODV, only the distinguishable seed characters. So every variety will have certain distinguishable characters of its own, which is very unique to itself. So those type of characters are compared in case of ODV test. So this is just a table examination on the seed characters. So this is particular to seed characters, but it is more generalized term, where all the different stages starting from sowing to harvesting is observed. So ODV is compulsory, like ODV for almost all the crops we follow except wheat. I don't know why this is an exception, but for all other crops we follow the ODV test for certification. If you want to certify your seed, this ODV test is compulsory conducted. So, but genetic purity, as I told you, like we in India follow only GOT, and that is again only for limited to hybrids and hybrids of certain crops, not even all the crops. So this is about the ODV and genetic purity, ODV and genetic purity test. I hope this is clear. I can bet you no one can clarify all these things right at this stage for you all. But since I am clarifying all these things to you, if in case anything comes in the exam, just make sure to answer it right. Okay, this is your chance. So next it is about field inspection. So I told you, like starting from sowing to harvesting, there are various stages where the field inspection is taken place, where it is commonly 3 field inspection or 4 field inspection. 3 in case of self-pollinated, 4 in case of cross, often cross, and hybrids. So there are minimum of 4 field inspection that are carried out. 3 in case of self-pollinated crops. So this is starting from sowing to harvesting. So whilst field inspection is carried out, in each field inspection there are certain counts. So how many counts are to be made? So the number of counts that are to be made depends on the area. If the area is up to 2 hectare, the minimum number of count that is to be followed is 5, and if it is 2 to 4, it is 6, 4 to 6, it's 7, and it's go on, it's so on. Okay, and if it is above 10 hectare, minimum number of counts is 10. So this is a very, very important table. Just don't skip it at any cost. Just try to remember this table. So it's up to 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No need to worry about much about it. It's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Here it's 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8, 8 to 10, and 10 about 10. So it's very easy to remember. Next, again in the single count. So field inspection, I told you there are number of field inspection. For example, okay, I'll tell you. Field inspection, again it might be 3 or 4. So again in the single field inspection, there are again field counts. So again it might be varying from 5 to 10, right, for field counts. So again in this field count, in a single count, number of plants to be observed. How many plants should be observed in a single count? So that is having again some table. So no need to worry about it, but just at least know this fact. So again, there are prescribed number of plants that should be observed in the single count, which are divided as widely spaced crops, medium spaced crops, and closely spaced crop. So based on this category, there are number of plants, different number of plants are to be observed, not based on the specific crop. It is based on whether it is widely spaced, closely spaced, or medium spaced. I have a table here, but I didn't put it because it might mislead you, because it is not at all important for you. Anyhow, I'll just add it here since I've already told you that this is not important. So make sure not to worry about it much. Just glance them once. So I told you about field inspection, right? So field inspection, how the field count are actually taken. You can just see the pattern. If these are all the fields, the field plot, the seed certification officer can, he will follow some schematic pattern of how he will count the, or how we will go through the field and how we will take the count. So these are certain examples of how schematic representation is made or schematic pattern is made, which will be followed by seed certification officer. So during the field inspection, if in first in case of self-pollinated crops, during field inspection, if 1/3 or more of the area is heavily lodged. So if 1/3 or more of the area is heavily lodged, it is liable for rejection. The seed certification officer will reject this particular field if more than 1/3 or 1/3 or more than 1/3 of the crop is heavily lodged. So this is in case of self-pollinated crops. But the story is different in case of cross-pollinated and other often cross-pollinated and hybrids, where if 1/3 or more is heavily lodged during flowering. So just try to remember it carefully. So only this is applicable during flowering, because up to flowering there is no disturbance in the cross pollinated. So only once it comes to the flowering stage, there should be a stringent control. That is why if the 1/3 or more is heavily lodged in case during flowering, since they are not uniform, as there is a genetically diverse, as they are genetically diverse, fouling, they might again come or the sowing, if even though sowing is done on a same date, so the plant stand might vary in the within a field. So that is the reason during flowering it is observed. If during flowering it is heavily lodged, that is 1/3 or more, it is again given for a rejection. So the same thing I have mentioned it here, you can just read it once. So there are other rules, certain other rules that are, I don't know whether they are necessary or not, because they have not asked them any of the time. But we cannot exactly say that they will be not again asking in the future upcoming days. So at least make sure to glance them once. So field inspection. So what are the different stages? I told you about 3 or 4. 3 is followed in case of self-pollinated, 4 is followed in case of cross-pollinated and often cross-pollinated. So the inspection will be during sowing, or next will be during free flowering or vegetative phase, and next is flowering stage, and lastly it is pre-harvest or post-flowering stage. So these are the stages of field inspection which are generally undertaken. Again, we have harvest time inspection. So these are 5 different stages where the field inspection is done. So during field inspection, what are the contaminants that the seed certification officer will look for? He will look for any off types. If there are any off types that are present in the field, he will look for pollen shedders, he will look for shedding tassel, and you will also look for if there are any other crop plants, inseparable other crop plants, and also objectional weeds. So these are certain contaminants or the parameters that seed certification officer will look for during field inspection. So what is the difference between pollen shedder and shedding tassel? I mentioned it. It's 3 stages in case of self-pollinated, cross-pollinated, often cross-pollinated, and hybrids. It is of 4 stage. So who will tell me this? Pollen shedder and shedding tassel. Okay, we'll discuss it. Next is about isolation. So I hope like you all have heard about the isolation distance, because every year, every one or the other year, they will ask you directly what is the isolation distance that is followed for either foundation seed or certified for specific crop. So what is this isolation? The seed productions which is separated from the various source of contamination, that is called as isolation. So this particular isolation, which is a separation of the particular field for the various contaminants, it can be provided in by three different kinds. So one is providing the space isolation. What do you understand by space isolation? That is, the two different plots are separated by certain distance, so it is called as space isolation. Secondly, you can also give the barrier isolation. So what do you mean by barrier isolation? In within a single, if the two different plots are together, you can provide isolation between these two crops by planting a broader rows or barrier crops around the field. So this is how you can give a protection to your seed crop. So that is called as barrier isolation. So third is time isolation. So can anyone tell me like how the time isolation is applied? So when the varieties that are needed to be produced, if they are adjacent to each other, if they are belonging to the same crop, so proper isolation should be given, right? Otherwise, since they belong to the same crop, there will be always cross pollination among themselves. Since they are within the species, there will be always, in most of the cases, there will be cross pollination or unwanted pollination that will be occurring. So in order to avoid that, how can we use this time isolation? So it is based on the fact that, not off season, growing in off season, I'm not saying about it, like see, even if you grow two different lots or two different varieties in the off season, what difference it will make? So this is a variety 1 and this is the variety 2. So what if you want to separate them? Especially, it's okay like by providing some distance we can separate. So if we are going by the time isolation, what is the how we are doing it? So the variety 1 and 2, if it is off season or in the season, everything remains the same. Yes, exactly. So based on the difference in their blooming or flowering duration, we can provide the time isolation. So this is particularly followed in case of maize. So can anyone tell me like why it is not followed in case of? I will tell you. I will just give you the one statement, that is, it is not followed in case of why rice, sorghum, and red gram. Particularly, I am just taking these three examples: rice, sorghum, and red gram. We cannot use the time isolation here. So time isolation, how we can give the isolation? By sowing those varieties which differ in their flowering duration, or which are having the differential blooming dates. So those type of varieties can be isolated through the time isolation. So but even that type of isolation is cannot be followed for rice, sorghum, and red gram. Can you guess it? What is the reason? Have you heard about the tillering and non-tillering crop? Yes, tillering, non-tillering crop, and determinate and indeterminate flowering. Whether the red gram is determinate flowering or indeterminate flowering. Indeterminate flowering means the flowering period is not fixed. The flowering occurs throughout the cycle. That is indeterminate flowering. So that is there in the red gram. That is why you cannot provide the time isolation. Even though there is a difference in the flowering duration, they will definitely overlap since they are indeterminate in nature. That is why time isolation cannot be followed in the red gram. And the rice and sorghum, as I told you, they are the tillering crops. Tillering means the primary from the primary tillers, there will be again new tillers that will come and they will flower again. So the flowering duration will be overlapping with the other varieties, even though they differ in the basic like blooming duration. Even though they differ, but on an average they will again overlap. Then there will be a contamination. So that is the reason you cannot provide the time isolation for these crops. So in the exam, you can expect that time isolation is given or time isolation is accepted for a crop. Which is the crop? It is maize, based on differential blooming technique. So I've just written it here. Like time isolation is not permitted because of the reason that tillering and branching crop, which are bajra, sorghum, and rice, if it has a indeterminate flowering, for example, rapeseed and mustard and pigeon pea. So this is for time isolation, which is not permitted for these particular crops. So this is a basic thing which you should remember when you are producing the seeds. If you are sowing male and female lane, so this particular line should be in a such a way that it should be perpendicular to the wind direction. If the wind is blowing from left to right, so the male and female to be adjacent to each other, which is actually perpendicular to the wind direction. It should not be like male and female and wind is blowing in this particular direction, because the from the male the pollen will straight away go to the other field. It will not be just jumping into, or they will be not landing into the female. So that is why it should be male and female in the single direction, which is perpendicular to the wind direction. I hope this is clear. So there are other conditions. You can take care of all these things. There is nothing to explain in this. I'll just directly skip to the important content that is to be discussed. So this is again the most important questions that is frequently asked in the exam, that is sampling. So most of the students will confuse in this particular sampling. So I will just post one question in the group. So after that question in the tomorrow's class, I will explain you the sampling methods and different how we should actually do the sampling, or and how we can consider you complete lot as a different units. So that I will do it after sending you a one proper question on that. That is actually asked in one of the previous year paper. So this is the table. Like I will explain it tomorrow once I just post the question. So seed testing manual. So this is another important thing. So you might get a question: if certain samples are sent to the seed testing lab in the India, so on what basis they are doing the testing? So what is the basic structure or basic content that you are using there, that the seed analysts are using all over the country, or what are the methods that they are following to test the seeds? So every kind of method that should be followed to test the seeds is mentioned in the Indian seed testing manual, so which was prepared by G.V. Chellam, Amir Singh, and Johnson E. Douglas. So these are the three important contributors to this seed testing manual, which is still in place today, and this is followed in India. Okay, this is just the first page of that particular manual. If you just visit the seed.net, you will get this manual. Is that clear? Appeal and revocation is fine, done. So next comes OECD. I don't know like how many people have heard about this term OECD. So OECD is nothing but an international organization which is established for the economic cooperation and the development. So under this OECD, so there is a scheme called as OECD schemes, so which will take care of certification. So it is the international level of certification. Just like in India, we have our own system of certification which is valid throughout the India. If you are certifying your seeds from through the OECD schemes, it is valid throughout the world wherever it is the member, wherever the country is the member of OECD. Like almost all the countries are members of OECD now. So in all those countries, your certificate will be valid if you are following the OECD schemes for certification. So in this particular schemes was launched in 1958. Just try to remember the year, and all other things are related to the economic cooperation and development. That is this particular organization. You can just skip it. Just try to remember this particular date, which is related to certification. So this is again an international organization which will take care of certification. It is not an autonomous body that it will only take care of certification. It is a complete organization which will take care of economic cooperation and development throughout the world, in which one of its provision talks about the OECD schemes for certification. There are certain guidelines for it. Okay, so this is as a similar to ICIA or IOSCA, which I have discussed in the previous class. So that was only limited to USA, Canada, and New Zealand. This is for overall for all the countries which are participating or which are the members of OECD. Talking about the schemes, OECD schemes have total of 7 different schemes. They have total 7 different schemes, out of which India participates in 5 different schemes. So these are the highlighted one, which in which the India participates, and India joined this OECD or became the member in 2008, October 2008. After that, it is participating in the 5 different schemes of certification. So which is grasses and legumes, crucifers and the other oil or fiber crops, cereals, maize and sorghum, and vegetables. Okay, so who is the head of this OECD in India? It is Joint Secretary, Seeds, Department of Agriculture and Corporation. So this particular post is known as National Designated Authority. So who is the head of it? It's Joint Secretary, Seeds. Just like breeder, foundation, and certified seed, these OECD schemes will also have generation system, but the name is different here. So name is called as pre-basic seed, basic seed, and certified seeds. And also the color varies. So this is completely related to SRF. You need not to worry about it. Just go through this once. So if in case they ask you, it's very easy to answer. Just try to remember this color. That's it. This is pre-basic, basic, and certified seed. So certified C1 and C2 are nothing but C1, CS1 and CS2 in Indian system. I told you like there are 2 different stages that we can go, and both the stages have blue color. But in the OECD schemes, first stage or first generation has a blue color and second generation has a red color. So not certified seed has a gray label, so it is under certain condition. You not to worry about it, leave it. And the standard seeds, it's a dark yellow label, and this particular class is limited to vegetable schemes, not for any other schemes. It is limited to vegetable seeds. So that's it for today. In the tomorrow's class, we shall start the seed production, and we'll try to take some of the crops, some of the very important crops like cereals, pulses, and some of the vegetable crops from where frequently question comes, and we'll try to discuss them. Rest of the things are fine. You need not to go in detail about seed production of all the self-pollinated and cross-pollinated crops, even though it is given in the syllabus that there is a heading in the syllabus that seed production of self and cross-pollinated crops. Even if they have given that, you cannot go through all the different crops. So it's quite impossible. So let us focus on the important crops, and we'll just deal with them. Okay, and also we'll just generalize in the general way. We'll talk about the seed production, how it is taken care. So this will be for seed production. Once we are finished with the seed production, we can jump into post harvest operations, which is of seed processing. Again, seed processing is also one of the important topic where they will directly ask you the principle or the mechanism behind the any machines or the utility of the machine. So these type of questions you might expect there. So we'll try to decode all these things and discuss. And lastly, it's about seed testing. So once we complete all these 4 different chapters, we are done with seed technology. That too in very detail, not too very basic. We are doing it in very detailed way so that you don't lose a single marks in case of seed tech. Is that clear? Okay, so just reply me here whether the session was fast or it was normal, whether I should increase my speed or decrease my speed, or it is okay, or if any other changes is required, you can just text me here fast. I'm just waiting for your answers. Like if it is okay, say yes. If you are feeling that I'm just going a little bit fast, you can say it as I'm too fast, so that I can mount myself. Yeah, it is fine. And what about the information that I'm trying to explain? Is it fine? Like you're feeling like the things are clear to you? the things are getting clear to you? Okay, fine. Thank you so much. We'll meet in the next class where after this class, just check for WhatsApp message where I will be posting one question. Might be after 20 to 25 minutes, so that try to solve that question and we'll discuss that particular question in the next class. Okay, thanks for attending. We'll meet in the next class.